Stop scrolling and take a moment to focus. Pay attention to these words, because they may change the way you approach your life and your decisions. Life is not fair. Comfort will not make you strong. Real strength does not come from having easy days or from avoiding difficulties. The great Stoic thinkers, Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca, all studied human behavior and human suffering carefully. They observed that resilience, the kind that allows someone to endure any challenge, does not come from the circumstances around you. It does not come from wealth, status, or luck. It comes from the mind. The control over your thoughts, your judgments, and your choices is what makes a mind unbreakable. Everything else is uncertain. Everything else is beyond your control. In this video, we will go through 7 Stoic principles that you can begin to apply today. These are not abstract ideas or motivational slogans. They are practical rules that can shape the way you think, the way you respond to life, and the way you make decisions. By learning these principles and putting them into practice, you can build a mind that does not give in to fear, does not collapse under stress, and does not rely on circumstances to feel strong. If you are ready to take control of your mind and your reactions, I invite you to comment "Stoic Strength" right now. This is your first step. By acknowledging it, you make a small but meaningful choice to pay attention, to listen, and to apply what you learn. Most people, however, live in a very different way. They allow themselves to be controlled by circumstances instead of choosing their responses. They chase comfort. They avoid pain. They act out of fear, anger, or desire, instead of reason. When something bad happens, they react without thinking. When something stressful comes, they panic. When they face disappointment, they blame someone else or something outside of themselves. This way of living leaves them vulnerable. It leaves them exposed to stress, failure, and repeated frustration. They do not realize that their reactions, not the events themselves, determine the quality of their life. The Stoics understood this deeply. They taught that the only things truly under our control are our own thoughts, our judgments, and the decisions we make in response to events. Everything else is external, unpredictable, and cannot be relied upon for stability. Wealth can be lost. People can betray you. Health can fail. Circumstances will always change. Those who depend on external factors for their peace of mind or their confidence will be at the mercy of the world. But if you learn to control your mind, if you learn to govern your judgments, your emotions, and your actions, you gain freedom. You gain resilience. You gain a sense of inner strength that cannot be taken away. Ignoring this reality is the main reason most people repeat the same mistakes. They spend their lives blaming the world, blaming other people, blaming circumstances for their failures. They become frustrated, anxious, and disappointed, yet they never pause to examine their own decisions. They never take responsibility for the one area that is truly under their control, their own mind. They let their emotions dictate their actions. They let fear prevent them from pursuing meaningful goals. They let comfort convince them to settle for less than they are capable of. Today, you have a choice. You can continue living like most people, reacting to the world and being shaped by circumstances. Or you can take the first step toward building a mind that does not break. You can begin to practice the Stoic principles that allow you to respond instead of react, to make decisions instead of being ruled by emotions, and to focus on what is within your control. By doing so, you create the foundation for a life of stability, clarity, and resilience. The first principle of Stoic thought is simple in words, but profound in practice. It is the principle of accepting reality rather than resisting it. Life does not bend to our wishes. Circumstances do not pause to accommodate our comfort or our plans. The world does not operate according to what we think is fair or convenient. Storms arrive, people act in ways we do not expect, opportunities are lost, and setbacks appear without warning. To fight against this reality is to drain your energy and to invite frustration and suffering. To resist what is outside of your control is to live a life where peace is always just out of reach. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic thinkers, wrote in his Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Notice the clarity in his observation. He does not say that the world will become easier or that events will stop being difficult. He does not promise that people will always act justly or that life will unfold according to your expectations. He says that the true power, the true strength, is found in your own mind. Your judgments, your thoughts, and your responses are where control and freedom exist. The external world is unpredictable. It is full of uncertainty. It will continue to challenge you in ways that you cannot always foresee or prevent. What you can control is how you interpret events, how you respond to them, and what choices you make as a result. This is the foundation of unshakable resilience. To practice this principle, you must first identify the areas in your life where you are resisting reality. Often, we resist simply because something is uncomfortable. We resist because it is not how we expected things to be. We resist because it challenges our sense of fairness or security. The resistance may be small, like annoyance with a colleague who disagrees with you, or large, like frustration over a job loss, a failed relationship, or a sudden health challenge. In each of these cases, resistance does not change reality. Resisting what has already happened only intensifies suffering. It is the same as trying to push a river backward. You expend energy, you create tension, and you gain nothing. Instead, the Stoic approach is to pause and ask a simple question: what is within my control here? Focus entirely on what you can influence. If a colleague disagrees with you, you cannot control their thoughts, but you can control your response. You can remain calm, you can speak clearly, and you can choose whether to continue the discussion or let it go. If you have lost a job, you cannot undo what has happened, but you can control your next steps. You can update your resume, reach out to connections, or acquire new skills. If you face a health challenge, you cannot always control the onset of illness, but you can control your actions in treatment, your daily habits, and your attitude toward recovery. This focus is not about denial. It is not about pretending that difficulties do not exist or that they are easy. Life can be hard, people can be unfair, events can be painful. Stoicism does not suggest ignoring these facts. It suggests engaging with them intelligently. By focusing on what you can control, you stop wasting energy on what you cannot. You begin to channel your thoughts and actions into areas where they will produce real results. This is where real freedom and strength arise. One practical exercise is to choose one situation you have been resisting. It could be a small daily annoyance or a larger ongoing challenge. Sit with the situation quietly and ask yourself, what aspects of this problem are actually within my control? Write down every action, choice, or adjustment that you can make. Look carefully. Often you will find that the things you truly control are limited but powerful. Then commit your attention entirely to those areas. Release the rest. This is not giving up. This is not passive acceptance. This is strategic focus. It is the act of directing your energy toward what matters most. The results of this practice are subtle at first, but profound over time. You begin to notice that frustration decreases. You experience fewer emotional swings caused by events outside of your control. You notice that your decisions are clearer and more deliberate. You act less from reaction and more from choice. You build confidence, not because the world has changed, but because your mind has strengthened. You are no longer pulled off balance by every obstacle, insult, or setback. You are steady. You are deliberate. You are effective. This principle is the foundation of the remaining Stoic practices. Without the acceptance of reality, all other efforts can be undermined by resistance and wasted energy. A mind that resists what is will always struggle. A mind that accepts what is and then chooses its response deliberately becomes capable of navigating any challenge with composure and clarity. If you are ready to commit to this practice, begin today. Identify one area where you have been resisting reality. Focus on what is within your control. Let go of what is not. Take a small, deliberate action that is fully under your power. Comment, "I control my mind," below to mark this commitment. By doing so, you take the first step in building a mind that is strong, steady, and unbreakable, no matter what life brings. The second principle of Stoic thought is the principle of training your judgment. It is one of the most important ideas to understand because the quality of your life is determined not by what happens to you, but by how you interpret what happens. Every event, every interaction, every circumstance is filtered through your mind. It is your interpretation that creates suffering or peace. Epictetus, a philosopher who endured hardship and physical disability, taught clearly, "It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." These words are simple, yet they contain a lifetime of wisdom. Consider how easily the mind can be deceived. Two people can experience the same event, yet their mental and emotional responses may be entirely different. A critical comment from a colleague can be a signal of failure and personal inadequacy to one person, yet an opportunity to learn and improve to another. A traffic jam can feel like a ruinous inconvenience, or it can be a chance to practice patience. A lost opportunity can feel like defeat, or it can become a redirection towards something better. Nothing in the external world compels a single interpretation. It is the mind that assigns meaning, and the meaning we assign determines our experience. Most people allow their judgments to be automatic and unexamined. They assume that their first emotional reaction is truth. They assume that their discomfort reflects reality. When someone insults them, they immediately conclude that they are disrespected or unworthy. When a plan fails, they conclude that they are incapable or unlucky. These interpretations may be compelling, but they are often false. They are stories we tell ourselves, narratives created by habit, fear, and past experience. The mind mistakes these narratives for reality. The result is unnecessary suffering, poor decisions, and reactive behavior. Training your judgment is the deliberate practice of examining your interpretations before allowing them to dictate your response. It is the discipline of pausing and asking whether your reaction is based on fact or on the story you're telling yourself. This practice requires awareness, patience, and honesty. When a negative event occurs, instead of responding immediately with frustration, fear, or anger, pause. Observe the event as it is. What exactly happened? What is indisputable? Separate the facts from your story about the facts. Often, the facts are neutral, while the story is dramatic, judgmental, and emotional. For example, suppose someone criticizes your work. The fact is that they expressed an opinion about a task you completed. The story you might tell yourself is that you are incompetent, that others are against you, or that your career is at risk. The fact does not support these conclusions. It is your judgment that turns an ordinary event into an emotional crisis. By training your judgment, you learn to notice the difference and to respond based on reality rather than assumption. You acknowledge the critique and decide whether it contains useful information. You do not allow your mind to generate unnecessary suffering from a neutral event. This practice builds mental discipline. Each time you pause before reacting, each time you question your initial interpretation, you strengthen your ability to act rationally rather than emotionally. You develop a space between stimulus and response, where choice exists. This space is where freedom is found. It is where Stoics believe true resilience begins. The mind that is trained in this way does not collapse under pressure. It does not respond automatically to insult, misfortune, or disappointment. Instead, it evaluates, considers, and chooses. The action step for this principle is simple to state, but requires consistent effort. Every time you experience a negative event, pause before reacting. Ask yourself, is my reaction based on fact, or is it my interpretation, my story, my assumption? Look carefully at your thoughts. Identify which are grounded in reality and which are products of fear, habit, or desire. Then respond intentionally. Respond according to reason, not emotion. With practice, this process becomes natural. You learn to filter information carefully, to avoid unnecessary suffering, and to act in ways that are effective and aligned with your values. This principle also has long-term effects on character and decision-making. A person who consistently trains their judgment becomes less reactive, less controlled by circumstances, and more able to navigate challenges calmly. They make decisions that are rational, measured, and deliberate. They do not allow anger, fear, or disappointment to dictate actions. Instead, they respond to the world with clarity and purpose. This builds confidence because you learn that you can control your reactions even when the world is unpredictable. The discipline of training your judgment is not a one-time effort. It is an ongoing practice that grows stronger with daily attention. Each pause, each careful evaluation of your thoughts, each conscious choice to act intentionally is a brick in the foundation of a resilient mind. Over time, your mind becomes less vulnerable to unnecessary stress, and your actions become more effective. You experience less emotional turmoil because you are no longer at the mercy of automatic reactions. You experience more control because you understand that while you cannot control events, you can always control how you respond to them. If you are ready to begin this practice, start immediately. Observe one negative event that occurs today. Pause before reacting. Ask, am I reacting to the facts or to my story about the facts? Make a deliberate choice based on reality. Comment, I choose my judgment below, if you are committing to this practice. This is the second step in building a mind that is steady, rational, and unshakable. Each choice strengthens your capacity to act with clarity and purpose, regardless of external circumstances. The third principle is to embrace discomfort as training. Life is not meant to be easy. Comfort is appealing, but it does not create strength. It does not build endurance, resilience, or clarity. Strength, whether mental, emotional, or physical, is forged in the presence of challenge. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, wrote, "Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor strengthens the body." This is not metaphorical, it is literal. Just as muscles grow when they are worked against resistance, the mind develops when it encounters and endures discomfort. Most people live their lives avoiding discomfort at nearly all costs. They seek comfort, security, and pleasure in ways that are obvious and subtle. They postpone difficult conversations. They avoid projects that feel intimidating. They resist physical challenges. They avoid anything that might provoke stress, fear, or doubt. On the surface, this seems reasonable. Who wants to suffer unnecessarily? Yet, by avoiding discomfort, they also avoid growth. They remain vulnerable to stress because their minds are unpracticed in endurance. They remain fragile because their decisions have rarely been tested under pressure. They remain limited because they have never faced the reality of their own capability. Embracing discomfort does not mean seeking suffering for its own sake. It does not mean punishing yourself. It means recognizing that challenge is a natural part of life and choosing to engage with it intentionally. This is the practice of training the mind as one trains a muscle. Every time you willingly face an uncomfortable situation, you condition yourself to tolerate difficulty. You learn to act despite fear. You learn to endure setbacks. You learn that discomfort is temporary and manageable. You learn that your capacity is greater than you believed. Consider how physical training works. Muscles are not built by resting. They are built by applying tension, resisting force, and continuing to work even when it becomes difficult. The same principle applies to the mind. When you engage with situations that provoke discomfort, your mental resilience grows. Each challenge you face and endure teaches a lesson. Each uncomfortable decision you make reinforces your ability to act with intention. Over time, the accumulation of these experiences produces a mind that is steady, capable, and unshakable. The action step is straightforward, but requires courage. Identify one thing you have been avoiding because it feels uncomfortable. This could be a conversation you need to have, a task you have delayed, a difficult project, or even a physical or mental exercise you have resisted. Do it today. Approach it intentionally, not impulsively. Observe your thoughts and emotions as you act. Notice the resistance. Notice the fear. Notice the tension. Acknowledge it without judgment. Then continue. Completing the action despite discomfort is the key. It is the act of persistence that strengthens your mind. Daily micro-challenges are extremely effective in this practice. They do not need to be large or dramatic. Small, consistent actions accumulate into significant change. Perhaps you have been avoiding waking up early. Start by setting your alarm 20 minutes earlier than usual and use that time to reflect or work on a meaningful task. Perhaps you have been avoiding difficult feedback. Choose one instance where you will listen attentively, accept the lesson, and respond with clarity. Perhaps you have been avoiding physical exertion. Take a walk, a run, or a simple exercise routine that challenges your endurance. These small acts, repeated consistently, build a foundation of resilience that becomes automatic over time. One of the most important aspects of this principle is awareness. Discomfort is not a signal to retreat. It is a signal that growth is possible. The mind naturally seeks to avoid pain. It generates excuses and fears to protect itself. The untrained mind interprets discomfort as a threat. The trained mind interprets discomfort as opportunity. Every moment of tension, every challenge, every resistance encountered can be a lesson in endurance, patience, and self-mastery. This practice also strengthens your decision-making under pressure. When you are accustomed to navigating uncomfortable situations, fear loses its power to dictate action. You become capable of responding with thoughtfulness and courage rather than reacting impulsively or retreating. You learn that discomfort is manageable and temporary. You develop confidence because you repeatedly prove to yourself that you can handle what life presents. Each instance of intentional discomfort reinforces the truth that you are capable of more than you believed. By embracing discomfort regularly, you also cultivate a realistic understanding of the world. Life is unpredictable and often challenging. It is filled with obstacles that cannot be controlled. By practicing resilience in manageable ways, you prepare yourself for larger challenges without being overwhelmed. You learn that enduring difficulty is not exceptional. It is the standard. It is what allows you to navigate life calmly, rationally, and with strength. Begin today. Identify one thing you have been avoiding because it is uncomfortable. Engage with it deliberately. Observe your resistance. Move forward anyway. Recognize that this action is training your mind. Comment, "I embrace discomfort" below if you commit to this practice. Over time, these small, deliberate choices accumulate, producing a mind capable of enduring, adapting, and thriving even when circumstances are challenging. The act of intentionally facing discomfort is not just a practice. It is an investment in resilience, clarity, and the kind of strength that cannot be taken away by external events. The fourth principle is to focus on decisions, not outcomes. Life is full of events and results that lie beyond your control. No matter how carefully you plan or how diligently you act, you cannot always determine what happens. External circumstances are unpredictable and often influenced by forces you cannot see or manage. This does not mean you are powerless. It means that the area where you can exercise true strength is in the choices you make and the actions you take. Stoics have long recognized that the quality of your decisions is far more important than the outcomes you experience. Most people make the mistake of tying their sense of success or failure to results. If a project succeeds, they feel capable. If it fails, they feel defeated. This mindset creates unnecessary stress and frustration because outcomes are affected by countless variables. A decision may be excellent and still produce an unexpected or unwanted result. External factors, including the actions of others, timing, and chance, influence outcomes. Judging yourself based on results alone leaves your mind at the mercy of circumstances. You become reactive, anxious, and unstable. The Stoics teach that your responsibility is to act with wisdom, integrity, and careful thought. Marcus Aurelius emphasized that you have power over your mind and your choices, not external events. Focusing on the quality of your decisions removes the burden of controlling what cannot be controlled. It shifts your attention to what is certain and reliable, your own reasoning, your intentions, and your actions. Every decision becomes an opportunity to practice judgment, discipline, and virtue. To apply this principle, begin by examining a challenge or situation in your life. Instead of worrying about whether the outcome will be favorable, identify the specific steps that fall within your control. This requires clarity and honesty. Consider what actions you can take, what preparations you can make, and how you can behave in a thoughtful and effective manner. Write these steps down if it helps. By breaking the situation into actions you can control, you free your mind from anxiety about the uncontrollable. Your focus shifts from speculation to execution. Once you have identified the steps you can take, commit to carrying them out fully and deliberately. Execute each decision with care and intention, without attaching your peace of mind to the result. Success is no longer measured by what happens afterward, but by how effectively and wisely you acted. This approach trains the mind to remain calm under pressure. It allows you to respond decisively, even when outcomes are uncertain. It reduces regret because you know you acted to the best of your ability, regardless of what followed. This principle also teaches patience and endurance. Life does not always reward effort immediately or predictably. By focusing on decisions, you develop the capacity to continue acting consistently over time. You are not swayed by temporary setbacks or fleeting success. You measure your progress by your commitment to reasoned action and ethical conduct, not by applause or approval from others. This fosters a deep inner stability and resilience that cannot be shaken by events outside your control. Another benefit of focusing on decisions is that it strengthens your problem-solving ability. When you train yourself to concentrate on what you can manage, you see clearly what options are available. You evaluate each step rationally and act without hesitation. This clarity is the foundation of effective judgment. The mind becomes skilled at navigating complexity because it is anchored in actions, not speculation. You learn to prioritize wisely, to allocate effort efficiently, and to avoid distractions caused by worrying about results that may never occur. Over time, this practice changes how you perceive challenges. You begin to understand that fear of failure is often fear of losing control. By separating decisions from outcomes, you reclaim control over your mind and your responses. You realize that the quality of your thinking, planning, and action is the true measure of your character and your strength. Outcomes remain important only in the sense that they provide feedback, but they do not define you. Your identity and your calm come from your consistent and thoughtful choices. Daily exercises reinforce this principle. Each time you face a task, consciously separate what you can influence from what you cannot. Focus on the decisions that are yours. Observe your tendency to worry about results and redirect your attention to execution. Reflect after completing your actions, noting whether you acted with reason and purpose. This reflection reinforces learning and cultivates confidence in your ability to make sound decisions under pressure. By practicing focus on decisions rather than outcomes, you train the mind to remain steady, deliberate, and effective. You reduce anxiety and self-doubt because you are no longer evaluating your worth based on events beyond your control. You increase your resilience because you can face uncertainty with reason and composure. You develop mastery over your reactions and your conduct, which is the core of Stoic strength. I focus on decisions if you commit to this practice. Each time you apply this principle, you strengthen the mental habit of controlling what is within your power. You are building a mind that remains calm, decisive, and effective in the face of any challenge. In time, this mindset creates a foundation for enduring resilience and clarity that carries through every area of life. The fifth principle is to protect your mind from poison. The human mind is deeply influenced by what it consumes. Thoughts, conversations, and daily inputs shape your perceptions, your moods, and your capacity to act wisely. Stoic philosophers understood that the quality of your mind depends on the quality of what you allow into it. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. If your thoughts are filled with negativity, fear, or confusion, these will color your judgment and your reactions. If you consistently expose yourself to distraction, gossip, or sensationalism, your mind cannot remain clear, calm, and decisive. Protecting your mental environment is as important as training your physical body or practicing rational decision-making. Most people do not realize how much influence external inputs have on their state of mind. Television, social media, news outlets, and even certain conversations can subtly shape your emotions without your awareness. Every image, word, or story carries a potential charge that can provoke anger, envy, anxiety, or despair. Over time, these small exposures accumulate. A person may not notice the change in their disposition immediately, but gradually they may feel more reactive, distracted, and unsettled. These external poisons erode mental clarity, reducing your ability to think rationally, act deliberately, and respond with resilience. It is not only media that can poison the mind. People who are chronically negative, critical, or manipulative can influence your thoughts and feelings without intending to. Time spent in their company can leave you anxious, doubtful, or irritated. Habits that encourage passive consumption of content, such as endless scrolling or compulsive attention to trivial matters, also diminish focus and self-control. Protecting your mind requires awareness of these influences and deliberate choices to reduce or eliminate them. The first step is to audit your inputs. Observe what you watch, read, and listen to on a regular basis. Notice how your mood and energy shift after interacting with certain media or people. Ask yourself whether these inputs leave you calm and focused, or restless and distracted. Begin to make changes by limiting exposure to content that generates fear, anger, or hopelessness. Replace it with material that encourages reflection, learning, and practical understanding of life. Conversations that are draining or toxic should be minimized, and you should seek time with those who foster thoughtfulness, encouragement, and honesty. Next, establish rituals that center your mind. Morning reflection is a powerful tool for setting the tone of your day. Take time each morning to consider what is within your control and what is not. Remind yourself that external events are unpredictable and largely outside your influence. Journaling is another method to protect your mental state. Writing down thoughts, emotions, and observations allows you to process experiences consciously, rather than allowing them to accumulate and distort your perspective. Focused work or deliberate practice of a skill also anchors the mind, creating a space where clarity and attention are cultivated. Protecting the mind is not a one-time task. It is a daily practice that requires consistent awareness and action. Every day brings new inputs, some beneficial, some harmful. The disciplined mind learns to filter these influences intentionally. You do not allow every piece of information, every story, or every conversation to shape your mood or decisions. Instead, you take responsibility for your mental state by choosing inputs that strengthen judgment, enhance focus, and encourage calm reflection. Another important aspect is learning to respond to unavoidable inputs without letting them control your state. You may encounter negative news, criticism, or difficult people despite your precautions. Stoics advise acknowledging the reality of these circumstances without internalizing them. Recognize that your mind is under your command and that you can observe these influences without becoming reactive. This ability to witness external negativity without absorbing it is a skill cultivated through awareness and consistent practice. The benefits of protecting your mind are profound. A clear, centered mind is capable of sustained focus, rational judgment, and steady emotion. You are less prone to distraction, panic, or impulsive reactions. You conserve mental energy for the decisions and actions that truly matter. By reducing exposure to poison, your resilience grows. You can maintain composure under pressure, respond thoughtfully to challenges, and sustain long-term progress in any area of life. Begin today by taking a careful look at what enters your mind. Identify the sources of negativity or distraction. Commit to removing them or reducing exposure significantly. Establish a simple ritual to begin your day with focus and clarity. It could be a few minutes of quiet reflection, a short journaling session, or deliberate work on a meaningful task. Make this practice non-negotiable. Over time, these small actions accumulate. Your mind becomes stronger, more disciplined, and more resistant to the chaos around you. Comment, "My mind is protected," if you are willing to take responsibility for what you allow into your thoughts. Each choice you make in curating your mental environment strengthens your ability to act deliberately, respond calmly, and maintain resilience. You are building a foundation of mental clarity and stability that cannot be easily shaken. This principle is essential to all the other Stoic practices, for a mind that is poisoned cannot practice rational judgment, embrace discomfort, or focus on decisions effectively. By protecting your mind, you create the conditions necessary to live deliberately and act wisely in every moment. The sixth principle is to practice solitude to find clarity. Many people confuse solitude with loneliness, but they are very different experiences. Loneliness is a feeling of emptiness and disconnection. Solitude, on the other hand, is a deliberate state in which you step away from distraction and noise to confront your own mind. Stoic philosophers understood that true wisdom and strength often emerge in silence. When you are alone with your thoughts, free from external influence, you gain the ability to observe yourself clearly. You can notice patterns in your thinking, your emotions, and your impulses without interference. This observation is essential for cultivating inner guidance and independence. Epictetus said that wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. This teaching reminds us that contentment and clarity are not found in external accumulation or distraction, but in understanding our own needs and desires. Solitude provides the space to see what is truly essential. When you spend time alone with your mind, you can examine the drives and habits that pull you toward unnecessary stress, attachment, or fear. You begin to recognize what is within your control and what is not. You can separate your authentic priorities from the noise of expectation, obligation, and social influence. Most people spend their days reacting to external pressures. They fill their time with activity, conversation, and media consumption. They rarely pause to consider their own thoughts or motives. Without this reflection, it is easy to become swept along by emotion and habit. Solitude interrupts this pattern. It allows for a deliberate pause, a moment in which you can step back and observe yourself objectively. You may notice reactions that are automatic, fears that are unfounded, or desires that are superficial. These observations are not judgments. They are simply information, data about your mind that you can use to make more deliberate choices. The practice of solitude does not require complicated techniques or extended retreats. Begin by setting aside 1 hour each day in silence. Choose a space where you will not be disturbed. This could be a quiet room in your home, a secluded outdoor location, or any place where you can be uninterrupted. During this hour, do not engage with technology, conversation, or any external stimulation. Simply observe your thoughts, emotions, and urges as they arise. Do not try to suppress them or change them. Allow them to appear and pass naturally, like clouds moving across the sky. The key is consistent observation and awareness. As you practice solitude, you will notice a shift in your relationship with yourself. You begin to rely less on external validation and more on internal guidance. Decisions become clearer because they are informed by your own understanding rather than by impulse or outside influence. Emotional reactions become more measured because you have trained yourself to witness feelings without being swept away. Over time, solitude strengthens your independence. You are no longer as dependent on constant input from others or on the validation of social circles. Your mind becomes a space of calm reflection rather than constant reaction. Solitude also enhances clarity in decision-making. When your mind is quiet, you can weigh choices carefully, consider consequences, and examine your true intentions. This clarity is not immediate. It develops gradually with regular practice. Each session of solitude is a small step toward greater awareness and self-mastery. Even brief periods of reflection, if practiced consistently, accumulate into profound insight. You may notice that decisions which once seemed difficult become simpler. Priorities that were once confusing become clearer. Your sense of purpose strengthens. Another benefit of solitude is the cultivation of resilience. When you are comfortable being alone with your thoughts, you are less shaken by external turbulence. You learn to trust yourself, to navigate life without constant reassurance or guidance from others. This trust is a powerful form of inner strength. It allows you to remain calm under pressure and act with intention even in situations of uncertainty or stress. Solitude becomes a training ground for emotional and mental resilience. The daily habit of spending time alone also provides a foundation for other Stoic practices. It complements reflection on what is within your control, reinforces the discipline of managing judgment, and supports the cultivation of patience and tolerance. Solitude is not an escape from life, it is a preparation for life. It gives you the mental space to observe, understand, and refine yourself so that you can engage with the world more effectively. Begin today by committing to 1 hour of quiet observation. Notice how your mind reacts, what thoughts dominate, and how emotions rise and fall. Observe without judgment. This practice will gradually strengthen your inner guidance, sharpen your clarity, and deepen your independence. Comment, "I embrace solitude," if you are willing to take this step towards self-mastery. Each session you commit to builds a mind that is calm, clear, and capable of deliberate action. Solitude is the place where clarity is born and where the unshakable strength of the mind is forged. The 7th principle is to commit to never abandon yourself. True resilience is not something that happens by accident. It is a conscious, daily choice to remain steadfast, to honor your commitments, and to keep moving forward even when circumstances are difficult or uncertain. Quitting is not simply a physical act. It is first a mental decision. The moment you allow yourself to consider giving up, you weaken your mind. You tell yourself that your effort, your time, and your potential are expendable. Building an unbreakable mindset means closing that door. It means deciding that you will not abandon yourself, no matter the challenges you face, no matter how tempting it may feel to turn away from your responsibilities or goals. Seneca observed that a strong character once established endures all trials. This is not a promise of ease. It does not mean life will become smooth or simple. What it does mean is that once you make a conscious commitment to uphold your own integrity and your own path, you create an internal anchor that cannot be removed by circumstance, opinion, or misfortune. Each day offers countless moments where your resolve is tested. You might feel tired, frustrated, or uncertain. You might encounter setbacks that make persistence seem foolish or impossible. Those are precisely the moments that define the strength of your mind. To begin practicing this principle, identify a challenge or goal you have been wavering on. It may be a project, a habit you are trying to form, a relationship you need to repair, or even an internal struggle you have been avoiding. For the next 24 hours, commit fully. Set aside excuses and justifications. Refuse to back down. Do what is necessary to honor this commitment in thought, word, and action. This practice is not about perfection. It is about showing up consistently, choosing integrity over avoidance, and proving to yourself that your word is trustworthy. Each time you follow through, you are building a track record of self-trust. This track record becomes the foundation of mental resilience. When you face greater challenges, you do not start from doubt or hesitation. You start from experience. You start from knowing that in the past you have met difficulty, confronted fear, and persisted anyway. Your history of commitment becomes proof that you are capable. Your past actions serve as a compass in moments of uncertainty, guiding your decisions and reinforcing your inner stability. Remember the 6 principles that lead up to this one. Accept reality and stop resisting the circumstances you cannot control. Train your judgment so that your mind interprets events accurately rather than being hijacked by emotion. Embrace discomfort as a necessary part of growth, understanding that challenge strengthens the mind just as effort strengthens the body. Focus on decisions rather than outcomes, giving your energy to the things you can control. Protect your mind by carefully choosing the information and influences you allow into it. Practice solitude to observe yourself clearly, unfiltered by distraction or noise. These 6 principles are tools. They are habits that train your mind, shape your perspective, and prepare you for resilience. Committing to never abandon yourself unites all of these practices. Without this commitment, principles remain theoretical. With it, they become living, actionable strategies. The decision to remain steadfast ensures that you will practice reality acceptance even when events are painful, that you will train your judgment even when emotions pull you in other directions, that you will embrace discomfort even when comfort tempts you to avoid it, and that you will focus on your decisions even when outcomes are uncertain. It ensures that you will protect your mind from harmful influences and seek solitude when clarity is needed. In other words, this 7th principle is not separate. It is the daily reinforcement that transforms learning into lived experience. The practice of never abandoning yourself also changes your relationship with time and effort. You begin to see each day as an opportunity to prove your commitment, no matter how small the steps. Even when progress is imperceptible, you honor the process. You build consistency, which compounds over time into unshakable confidence. This is how resilience becomes durable. It is not built in one heroic act. It is built in thousands of quiet, disciplined moments where you choose to stay the course, follow through, and honor your own path. Take a moment now to consider one area of your life where you have been wavering. Decide immediately that quitting is not an option for the next 24 hours. Commit fully to yourself. Let this decision be the thread that connects all 7 Stoic principles into a coherent practice. By doing this, you move beyond abstract understanding. You move into action, demonstrating to yourself that your mind, your judgment, and your character are yours to protect and cultivate. Commitment to yourself is the anchor. It is the practice that ensures your mental strength is not conditional on external circumstances. It turns the 6 principles into a cohesive, actionable path. When you live with this commitment, your mind becomes stable in the face of difficulty. You respond instead of react. You persist instead of collapse. You measure your life by integrity and action, not by the ease of your journey or the opinions of others. This is how you cultivate an unbreakable mind. By committing to yourself, you ensure that every challenge, every discomfort, and every uncertainty serves your growth rather than diminishes it. Your history of follow-through becomes evidence of your capability. Your daily practice reinforces your resilience, and in time, this commitment transforms not only your mind, but your life, allowing you to face whatever comes with clarity, stability, and purpose. The mind that can endure any challenge is not formed by chance. It is built carefully, deliberately, through the small choices we make each day. Each moment where you act with clarity, discipline, and purpose strengthens your ability to respond instead of react. Every decision to focus on what you can control, to face discomfort rather than avoid it, and to follow through on your commitments reinforces your resilience. This is how unbreakable minds are created. They are built not in sudden bursts of courage, but through consistent practice and steady attention to how you think, feel, and act. As you reflect on the 7 principles we have explored, consider which one you will apply first. Will you choose to accept reality without resistance, train your judgment, embrace discomfort, focus on decisions rather than outcomes? Protect your mind from harmful influences, practice solitude to find clarity, or commit fully to yourself without abandoning your path. Identify one principle and commit to it today. Comment Stoic strength below with the principle you have chosen to focus on first. By sharing your choice, you create accountability and join a community of people who are practicing the same disciplined approach to the mind. Like, share, and subscribe to stay connected with others who are dedicated to building mental resilience, mastering their thoughts, and responding to life with clarity and strength. Your mind grows stronger each time you act intentionally. Begin now and take the first step toward becoming the person who remains steady, calm, and purposeful no matter the circumstances.